have this feeling like we're losing our mind. I like to start with like a little story or something. I was reading this story about a doctor of psychology who was doing his normal rounds when he entered a patient's room. And there were 2 patients in the room, and patient number 1 is sitting on the floor, and he appears to be like miming like he's sawing a piece of wood in half. So he asked the patient, "What are you doing?" And he's like, "It's obvious, I'm sawing a piece of wood in half." He says, "Well, what's that other guy doing? He's hanging from the ceiling." And he says, "Oh, that's my friend. He's, you know, he's a little crazy. He thinks he's a light bulb." And he says, "Well, he's kind of turning red. Maybe you should tell him to get down." And the first patient says, "Are you crazy and work in the dark?" But of course we are those light bulbs, right? I think sometimes, you know, the patient got it right. What we're talking about, as I said, we're losing our mind in the divine. And the purpose of our talk today is when we merge our entire being and our knowingness of our oneness, our connection with the divine, we lose ourselves. We lose the smallest parts of ourselves, and we sacrifice them to the expression of the infinite. And when we do that, there's no obstacle that can overcome us. You know, the reading today, they may have sounded a bit mystical, but the intention is to really presence us to this energy of the divine, the all-pervasive, infinite nature of what it is to be that divine power. You know, the idea that the part of God that lives in us is eternal, and the part of us that mirrors that divine is with our impression, our experience of God. Whether we think that God is on the mountaintop, then we're on the mountaintop. If God is creator, we're creator. If God is one blessing, then we are that blessing. Because we can never be separated from the divine energy. One of the things that I have shared with you before is I wanted to share with you this, I think I had shared with you before a Rumi poem. It's Rumi and it's titled The Number 1246. You remember Rumi was a 13th century poet who had been sharing, who had had a mystical experience with a saint and had been writing this poetry ever since because he was so struck with his love for that saint that it struck for him, resonated his love for the divine. And so he says, "The moment I first heard of love, I gave up my soul, my heart, my eyes. I wondered, could it be that the lover and the beloved are two? No, they have always been one. It is I who have been seeing double." What does it mean when we say we're giving up our soul? What does it mean to give up our mind? What does it mean to give up our eyes and our heart? Well, when we think about it, when we give up our belief in our own separateness, as we develop our instincts and our ability to do that, we become merged into this experience of God. We become merged into knowing who we are. We've talked about the first step of treatment, you know, treatment being the 5 steps of prayer here that we use. And the first step is recognition of the divine, recognition of what that divine energy is. Now, every one of us has a different experience or a different understanding of what God is. For me, it would be divine energy with consciousness. It would be this all-pervading love energy. I had been doing some meditations, and I had this experience of being one with God, and of having this, expanding my heart chakra, and feeling that there was this absolute oneness place with me and all that was divine. And when I'm in that space and my heart is opened, I can no longer accept or believe that I'm separate from anyone. I can no longer accept or believe that there's just me in the world. That I can no longer accept or believe that there is loneliness, because I can never be separated from this experience of God. And so God becomes for me an experience, not someone just in the sky, not someone who has a set of rules that I have to live by, but God is for me an experience. And so when I give my heart away, I know that it's not my heart that's going away. What goes away is my expectation of what I think love is. What goes away is my expectation of how I think I have to protect myself. What goes away is my expectation of feeling that I have to limit myself in some way so that I'm not fully merged in that divine energy. when I give away my heart, the other stuff falls away. I have a friend who's been my best friend for a long time, and we had some sort of falling out. And honestly, I cannot remember what she did. But whatever she did, I felt it was grievous. And if this person was really my friend, she would not have done this. So on some level, I had kind of killed her off. So I didn't talk to her for about a month. And I was missing her, but I was still mad. And all she did was pick up the phone. And this is what she said: "I'm sorry, and I miss you." And I was just like flooded with so much love for her that I honestly, all the things I had planned to say, all the stuff, the boundaries, you shouldn't have, like going over the story, and why did you do this? And then she tried to give an explanation. I was like, I didn't even want to hear it. Because the love superseded all of that. And it really became, because there was that connection, and because there was that love, and because this person had been my friend for 20 years and will be my friend for the rest of my life, I did not care. Because there was nothing to forgive. Because when we are in that space of oneness, of love with the divine, our mind goes away. Not our sacred mind, but our thoughts, our opinions, our beliefs, our prejudices, all the things that we think are true about that person or how that person or that situation should be. In the space of love, it all goes away. And then what we're left with is that absolute beautiful connection that we have. What does it mean to lose our eyes? I thought about losing my eyes inside of oneness, and several examples came up for me. One of them is, have you ever noticed that sometimes people's children are terrible, but they don't see it? I always hoped I wasn't one of those parents where my kid's running, through like some banshee or some crazy child through the store, and I'm like, oh, she's so perfect. She would never do anything wrong, and she's, holding up a liquor store. That's my baby, But sometimes we have that blind love where, we cannot see someone's flaws because all we're present to is that we look through them. We look past the flaws. We look past what it is, if somebody has a booger in their nose. We can't even see it because all we see is this person that we love. And that's how we give up our eyes inside of oneness, how we give up our eyes in the space of the divine, how we give up our sight. And we lose the sight of our eyes with our mind, with our opinions, and we begin to have divine sight. We have divine sight from the space of oneness. It's, one of the other examples is sometimes, and this is particularly true with my wife in that, she will see me bigger than I see myself. I will see my flaws, and I didn't do this, and I've got to get this done, and oh, I didn't do that right, and I know I live in here, right? So I know everything, all the shadow, I made a mistake, I want to give up, I get like sad or angry or depressed, and I just go, oh, who am I to be, doing this? Who am I to sit here and give a talk? Who am I to do what I do? And sometimes it's so important to listen to people that see you through the eyes of love. To see people see you and know who you are. Because I may not be able to see me. I may be looking in a mirror and there's some ugliness up in there, right? I'm like, ooh, shadow, right? And having that person speak from the eyes of love. You are perfect. You're whole. You're complete. You're special. There's something unique about you. There's a reason why you're here. And being able to give up my own eyes about myself, to give up my own attachment to my own flaws, to give up my own belief in my smallness, and listen to someone listening to me as powerful. That in of itself, being love is accepting love, and listening from love, and giving love. And it all becomes to swirl around into one space to where you have this wholeness. And when you know someone is telling you the truth about you, because you want to argue with them, oh no, it's not really true, Sometimes we can go to a practitioner or a minister And that's why we go to someone who's trained to see us through that perfection of their eyes. Trained to see you is who you are. Trained to know who we are as these divine creatures that are emanations of the divine. Knowing that there is something uniquely special about each of us, and we're all here for a particular purpose, for a particular reason, and that as much as we run to God, God is running to us with arms open, embracing us, loving us unconditionally, no matter how flawed, no matter how small we think we are. Those are just the external circumstances. And so in that situation, the lover and the beloved are one. We're not two. We've just been seeing double, because there is no separation between us when we are in that space of love. When we allow love to pervade us with complete abandonment, that power of the divine is so light, so powerful, that there is no obstacle that can overcome us. And it's really interesting when we hear that, because there's different levels of understanding that principle. There have been times, sometimes recently, I don't know, maybe earlier today, when you're in so much energy about what's going on in the day. You're in so much darkness about how this situation looks. I have been dealing with this situation for this long and it has not changed. I am still doing this. I am still experiencing this. This thing isn't how I wanted it to be. This obstacle doesn't seem to go away. How do I believe that I can overcome every obstacle when the darkness seems to be so pervasive and my heart feels anger and I feel overwhelmed and I feel powerless and I feel limited? How do we get from that space when we feel that way? And everybody, it's like part of the human experience. There are times when we feel that way. How do we get from there to being, I am overcoming? I have overcome. And sometimes it's a process. Sometimes it's a process where, you know, you've heard the Bible verse, you know, faith, hope, and love, but the greatest of these is love. I think of love as being that connection. But we start with faith. Sometimes, and we've said here, you know, that the idea of, you know, rules and guidelines, and this is how you do certain things, is not really knowing. That's not necessarily the spiritual path. It may just be the first step, right? Sometimes we may have something in our head that we know is true, but boy, it sure doesn't feel like it right now, you know? I know that I am, you know, greater is He, greater is God that's in me, that's in the world, and I know that in my heart, and I've played it in my head, but this other negative situation seems to be winning out, right? So, okay, so where do I start with that? The first place to start is having it in your head in the first place. That's why it's so important for us to engage in a spiritual practice that includes studying, that includes familiarizing ourselves with the words and the beliefs. Because when we start with that, we have a place to begin our journey out of that space. So we start with the head knowledge, okay? I'm a conqueror. I'm more than a conqueror. I'm filled with light. I'm filled with love. I know who I am. I know who God is in me. I know that I am perfect health. I know I am abundance. Start with it in your head, even if it doesn't feel like it, even if it doesn't look like it, even if it hasn't changed. Start with the head knowledge. And then we continue to ground it in. Why do I know that's true? How do I know that that's true? So then we start transforming it into hope. Well, I hope that's true. I have a hope that this will shift. I have a hope for the planet. I have a hope for the environment. I have a hope for social justice. I have a hope for my life. I have a hope for my life that is beautiful and harmonic, and that it's a song of beauty, that's a walk of love. I have this hope, but I'm still not there yet. And then as I ground in that hope, I get to the space of faith. Faith is believing in it even though it doesn't feel like it. It's having the faith, the space to believe in it even though you don't know that it's true. So you get to the space of like, okay, I believe it, but it doesn't really feel like it. But we continue to ground that in. With the understanding and knowledge of truth, we just keep taking it to different levels of truth, deeper and deeper and deeper within us. We sit in this space of the divine We sit in the space of the Divine Mother. We sit in the space of silence. We sit in the space of the divine womb and allow this birth of what we have created to manifest. We allow our understanding of it to manifest. We allow ourselves the space to just be in the knowing of what is the truth. And what is this truth? This truth is that there is this divine presence in the world. And this divine presence is in me. And we sit there and sit there and sit there and know it and meditate on it until it gets to the space of a gnosis, of a knowing, of a deep, deep knowing that there is no separation, that you are that divine embodiment. And when we get to that space, that deep knowing, it starts to manifest, but it stops being a conversation about manifesting something outside of you. It becomes an expression of who you automatically are. It just flows through, and then you're on to the next thing. So whenever we're in that dark night of the soul, whenever we're in that space where it feels like we don't know how to get from here to there, we just take our steps, and we give up going from being a victim, going from, I have to manifest something. We go to where we know it's true, and then we get to that space of knowing. When we're in that space of knowing, everything that we are creating just manifests. Ernest Holmes has a quote. He talks about, in demonstrating conditions, the only inquiries that we need to make are, do the things that we want lend themselves to a constructive program? Do they express a more abundant life, rob none, create no delusion, but instead do they express a greater degree of livingness? If they do, then all the power of the universe must be behind them. All the power of the universe is behind it. So when we know this, he says if it's money, automobiles, houses, land, stocks, bonds, dresses, shirts, or shoestrings, cabbages, or kings, all of which come from the same source, there can be nothing, either in the law or the spirit back of the law, to deny us the right to the greatest possible expression of life. And we think about that. We look at, sometimes it isn't working out that way. Sometimes, we don't feel the truth. Sometimes it's easy to be in the space of doubt. Is there really a personification of God that actually cares about me? You start looking at all the people who have had horrible things that happen to them, and we're like, why do these things happen to other people? Why have horrible things happen to me? Why are these things happening? What is the lesson? Maybe I was, Mussolini in a past life, and I'm getting this as the cause and the effect of what I did in the past. Or maybe I thought some terrible thoughts, back in the past, and now this is all coming on me, right? Sometimes as people who have been in Science of Mind or New Thought, we want to blame ourselves or find some reason for it. But Ernest Holmes points out that the divine mind is cause and effect. So if there's something in our lives that isn't working, then we neutralize it with something of greater power. And whatever we create from the space of light within us is automatically more power than what we created in error. Whatever we created in error, sometimes, we talk about missing the mark. Sometimes we talk about missing the mark as if, that idea of, sin, or we made a mistake and something isn't working for us. But whenever we miss the mark, it's only, sometimes we're driving by Braille. Sometimes it's a learning process. And so when we miss the mark, it's just an opportunity for us to go back inside and connect ourselves with that deep knowing of who we are, that deep knowing of spirit operating through us, that deep knowing that there's an entire cosmos working in collusion with you. So everything that occurs, we start looking for, if everything's happening for me, if everything is happening for me, then even if there's something that appears to be something that I don't want, if everything is happening for me, this is here for me to gain the spiritual knowledge for it. And we've talked in the past, we heal it. We go into treatment, we go into prayer, we bring light to it. We bring this divine power and we shine that light on it. And it is an absolute divine principle that this divine light, this knowing within us, when we have that space of knowing, when we have that space of completeness within us, that that light blasts out anything that we thought would be an obstacle. You will find that the world starts to align itself with your intention. The world starts to have really funny little synchronicities. That there are some things that all of a sudden happen to work out. You know, that the perfect contract shows up, or the perfect person comes up, or the perfect message shows up. Some people are just messengers of light, and they come into your space and they say, I know that you're blessed. I know that you're healed. I know that everything you want is right there, and it is in you to want it because it is for you. That is why you have that desire. It is an expression of God that you have that. It is an expression of God that you live in the beauty of your relationships to where it's divine and sacred and beautiful. This is the divine plan for your life. You know, there are often times where we go through different times of, you know, different religions and different processes, you know, different growth spurts. All of it happened so that you would be sitting here in this message. You're no longer sitting in a message that says there's somebody outside that's going to save you. You are university spirit. You are a university level spirit. You are at a deeper level of spiritual development where you have actually been brought the message that everything that is divine is inside of you. You have gone through this journey up until this point so that you can be someone who knows how to not just take responsibility for your life, but you have the ability to create it in the highest and best ways. You know, there are a lot of times where Jesus in the Bible have said, he that has ears to hear, let them hear. Where they talked about not to throw your pearls before the swine or before the dogs because they would trample them and then they'd turn on you. The point of those sayings is that you are here right now because you have the spiritual development to hear this message. You have the spiritual space in you to create powerfully. You are here right now at this high level of spiritual existence, this high level of spiritual knowledge with these tools because you are ready to use them. So it's on us right now to take those tools. It's on us right now to create our lives. It's on us right now to be the highest emanations of the divine through us. This message isn't given to us for us to keep it in our head. This message is given to us right now because God put you, Spirit put you, divine cosmos put you in this message right now because there is something powerful for you to create in your life and in the lives of everyone around you right now. You were brought for such a time as this. And because you have these special gifts, because you have them, you know that you can use them, that you are using them. That is why we are here together. That is why we are sitting here together having a conversation about the most high divine God living in you, expressing as you, and that there is no such thing as an obstacle that can overcome who you are in your most highest divine mind. And when you plant from that space of divine power, you are God, Creator, the Divine One. You were with God when the world was created. You were with God when the planets were created. You were with God when gravity came into being. You were with God when there was an orchestration of a planet that had a rotation, that had stars. There are infinite points of creativity, and you have that same power within you. And because we know that we have that power, there is no such thing as an obstacle that can come against God. So we plant. We plant. We plant with these seeds that are in our hearts right now. And we sit in the womb of the divine manifestation. We sit in the womb of the Divine Mother. We sit in that quiet, dark space, knowing that all is well. Knowing that greater is He that is in you than he that is in the world. Knowing that we are powerful. And as we do that, all of the thoughts about smallness become revealed as the silliness that they are. Because we have lost our mind in the divine mind. We have lost our opinions about ourselves in the divine mind. We have lost our limitations and our beliefs and our smallness in the divine mind. And we open ourselves up like Ruby with absolute extreme love, with absolute extreme abandon, and tell Spirit with open arms, I am here, use me powerfully. I am here, I am your instrument. Bring me to the highest manifestation of who I am in this planet. Let's lose our minds.